Good morning, everyone. It's Lilia from Help Yourself podcast and Scotland's Wild Medicine Festivals. And I'm delighted to say that this morning I've got with me Kath from West Coast Pilates, who's quite local to the Tarbert Festival, but you're having your very first appearance at our festival, Kath. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
No, I did a class with you. I'm not quite sure how long ago it was because time's taken on a strange thing with me. But I absolutely loved it. And, you really were the first person to start demonstrating the fascia and the power of these very, very simple, gentle movements to create this kind of almost like lightness in the body. And I even bought the balls that you had because I was so, of course, they're in my van most of the time, but I am really now focused and need to start using them. So give us a little bit about your background, how you got into what you're doing, because it's not that long ago you moved to Tarbert or to the area. Where are you?
Yeah, so I'm on Kintyre. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you can see, but the sea in the background there, it's just lovely. It totally stole our heart, this place. It's just absolutely magical. So, yeah, we've lived here 4 years. I grew up in the borders of Scotland, so on the coast. And then a very short, short history. I did circus and physical theatre in my 20s, which I absolutely loved, but my body did not. So I kept injuring myself. And through my recovery, I came across Pilates and the Alexander technique. So I've actually been doing Pilates for I daren't say how long because then you'll know how ancient I am.
Giving it all.
About 30 years. So that it was just amazing. It completely changed my whole body shape, how I felt about myself. It was just incredible. Even when I went home, my mum would say, "God, you look so different. You're a different person." And it really is the power of just that mind body. We're all connected, we're all one. And I'm just naturally very curious. I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to really understand things. So I just started my journey of becoming a Pilates teacher. And whenever I felt there was a gap in my knowledge, I would seek out some new training. So I did something called the Hendrickson method, which was a manual therapy. And that was based a lot on the sort of Tai Chi, the energy, where you use your energy to sink in and unwind tissue that is in dysfunction. And then after that, I opened a big studio in Leeds. We had there was two of us doing that, and it was like this snowball. It just kept going and going. And then I learned the Franklin method because I wanted to really understand anatomy, and I wanted to know how we could embody what is actually happening inside us. So first you need to kind of know what's happening inside you before you can feel it. And then just like lots of breath work, mindful self-compassion, and now I've been doing Polyvagal Institute training, and also some applied neurology, which is just fascinating. And my very exciting thing this year, my training this year, I try and do a big thing every year, is I'm going to do observe a dissection of the vagus nerve in June with all kind of bigwigs of the fascia world. And so it's sort of fascia and vagus nerve, it's all mingling in together. So it's great.
It can't really do anything else. I find myself talking about the fascia, obviously, and it's the same when you talk about the mind or letting go. You understand that the vagus nerve, the fascia, the muscles, the heart coherence, the brain, it's all, you can't separate it all out now. Mm-hmm. And, I find in the fascia incredibly interesting. but also, you know, we're understanding about the bones as well now, and all the stuff that we thought was, I suppose, solid, for want of a better way to put it, that we have far more influence over it than we ever realised, and also that, and we know this, the body holds a score. The issues are in the tissues, and very often the pain is not there for the reason that we would, you know, a shoulder expert might not be able to help you with pain in your shoulder because it could be coming from something else. And you know, have been working with a friend of mine who will remain nameless, but I was so happy to hear it because you'd helped her to see the body in a completely different, much more loving and gentle way. And I was like, oh, and that's actually what reminded me to get in touch with you, because I was like, you just speak my language. And obviously you're in Argyll, you're in Kintyre, and you can help the people in that area with this holistic overview and understanding of the body. That it's not, and I mean, I was guilty of this as well. It's like, get the cardio up, come on, you get the heart rate up, get the blood pumping, etc., and lift weights, you know. It's just not always the correct advice. As we know, there's no one size fits all. Mm-hmm. And certainly, I'm sure you're seeing it as well, when people are so vulnerable with chronic autoimmune issues, you know, sometimes that is the totally opposite of what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. So have you been to Westlock Wellness? Are you doing anything there?
I've been there, yes, but I had planned to maybe run some reformer classes. So just to buy a load of reformers. At the moment, reformer seems to have gone a bit viral in the fitness world.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's much more to it than just getting on and pumping. And it really is. It's like Pilates is a holistic mind-body exercise. And it has to be taught with sensitivity, but also a really deep understanding of the body and how it moves. Like you say, every time you're moving your body, you're moving everything. You're moving your emotions, you're moving your thoughts and feelings, and whatever is trapped in that tissue. So sometimes I get a bit wound up by people that just jump on bandwagons and do a very brief training, and then, you know, and then they injure people. People they'll try and go, oh, that wasn't for me. And it's upsetting for those of us that have, it's our passion, you know, I've been doing it for longer than I haven't been doing it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I will do it, but I'm not going to rush into it because I don't want to jump on a bandwagon. I used to have a big studio in Leeds where we had loads of classes, reformer classes and equipment classes, and I will get around to that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of places that I'm turning up to now have got all these reformers in place. So it's definitely a bit of a buzzword. But I think you're right, you know, like going back to when I first did a yoga class and I just thought, this is boring and sore. You know, you get put into a position and you'd feel your muscle getting tight, and then you'd wait for the teacher to come round. I'm talking about decades ago, not now. And then I just didn't understand it or get it, you know, because I didn't have that mind-body connection. And then I started getting into Ashtanga, because I think an awful lot of these things, certainly initially, and I believe this with breath work as well too, you're better having a couple of private sessions first. And then you can really, somebody's talking to you, your mind, your body, where you're at. Sorry, I'm on another computer because I've been having trouble with the sound, and I don't know whether it's my laptop or whether it's what it is. Anyway, so I encourage my breathwork instructors to do a one-to-one with people who are vulnerable or who perceive themselves to be vulnerable, because I'm pretty sure, like you, we know the body's incredible and strong and resilient, but there's just different ways, different angles to come in depending on your age, your fitness, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, where you're at. You know, it's I think for me it's all about the invisible, all about the energy and the flow. But you know, you can't talk to everybody like that when they'll be like, what are you on about? It's much easier to talk about, you know, the muscles and the bones and the organs, etc. So really to find out, to have a great class that everybody can enjoy, it's just much easier if you've had some kind of introduction to it, or if
Yeah.
you can get everybody at one level. And living in a place like Argyll, that can be more of a challenge because it's a numbers game, isn't it? How many
Yeah.
people you can get along.
Yeah. And for a lot of people down here, they've never heard of Pilates or,
Mhm.
breath work. For a lot of people, I think the mindset is, why would I pay to go and be taught how to breathe? I breathe all the time. But again, it's all those nuances, it's like in the polyvagal theory, we learn that the pericardium, which is the fascia around the heart, interweaves with the diaphragm. So every time you breathe, your heart is going up and down, and that influences very much the speeding up and then the slowing down. So it's so multi-layered, and you can enter it here, but then everything you learn, and the more you learn and repetition, and the more kind of different angles and things, like you say, that you look at, then you distill down this really deep understanding. And that's when change really happens for us on every level.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, it's interesting, even this festival, we have new people coming in and we have people that, are been pretty steady over the last 3 years, but everybody is doing more and more training. And, much as I get your point about the courses, it's lovely that you can just go in and learn more about the vagus nerve, learn more about the fascia, and learn more about the neuroscience. Because everyone I know, and they're primarily women, I have to say, they're upgrading and upskilling all the time, because it's like one thing leads you to another, until so you start to get into this state of awe over the incredible feat of engineering and whatever this is, and the influence that we have over it with our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our perceptions, our beliefs, and our intentions, and our attention. It's all of these things, isn't it?
Yeah. And the more you learn, the more you realize what you don't know. Actually,
100%.
you have not a clue. Even if you study your entire life, really, we've only just sort of dropped into a tiny bit. But also the fact that we are so connected. So whatever you're doing has, excuse me, has an impact on everything. It's not, you can't just work the body without it affecting all these other systems. So I just feel it's really important to have an awareness of what is happening, not just on a very basic, linear, one-dimensional level.
Absolutely. And I think people can sort of feel that, when you're having a consultation, you're listening, you're observing, and, I've got a biofeedback system, but to be honest, I know exactly what it's going to say before I even put anybody on it, because when you've been doing it for this long, you can just pick up on things. And I
Yeah.
think the main thing for me right now that I'm seeing is, with so many hormonal challenges for men and women, and despite gut dysbiosis and heavy metals, you can almost see it in people, and you know that it's a problem before they've even spoken to you, because you'll be very dysregulated with the nervous system. And then you're like, right, okay, what movement's going to be best for that? What way of eating is going to be best for that? And what way of thinking, what meditations, and that's a minefield as well, especially maybe you've never meditated before, maybe you don't understand about the microbiome, and so you can't separate any of these things and what's happened to you in the past. It's all that same energy field. And it's just finding a way for me to take enough straws off the camel's back that the body gets a chance to breathe, and you get a chance to tune in to really feel what's right for you.
Yeah, there's a lovely quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's like, we are facilitators. We don't heal people or fix people. We are the facilitators to put it's like a recipe, put the right ingredients in for that person, because their body does the healing. We don't do the healing on them, but we're the facilitators to say, right, do a bit of this, a bit of that, a pound of that, a pinch of that. And then the body gets in a state where, it wants to heal. It wants to come back into equilibrium. And when people come and say, "Oh, fix me," I'm like, oh, rolling my eyes, because it's like, no, I don't do the fixing. You do the fixing. I just teach you how to.
Well, exactly. And I keep saying that we need to teach people how to fish. You know, it's lovely coming for a massage, or, you know, coming for that ache, pain, or whatever, or, you know, if it's anxiety, to relaxation. But how do you, 1 hour? I mean, I noticed that with me. You know, 1 hour a week with me is simply not enough for people. That we have to give them home play, as my pal calls it, not homework. Things to do at home, because 1 hour with any therapist or healer, and then all the other hours, you know, 6 days and 23 hours at home, what are you doing? And that's why we have to kind of have that overview. But what I really liked about what you did with my friend was, you know, because this is one of my big things, is really inspiring people to the magnificence of the human body, because we've been terrified of our own bodies. Mm-hmm. You know, so to make friends again with these cells that are just hanging on your literally our every word, and how we can change our perception around it, you know, to be kind and loving the way we would be to a child.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So tell me, what are you going to be doing at the festival? Tell everybody who's going to come along to see you.
Okay, so what I thought, so the polyvagal theory is very complex, but it's really fascinating, and it's really important, again, to have a bit of an understanding. So I'm going to try and distill it into a language and an experience as well that people can understand. And with that, so polyvagal just means many vagal circuits, because we have many. It comes from the brainstem down the neck, innervates all the face and the neck, the inner ears, comes down into the lungs, the heart, the pharynx, the esophagus, and then down into all of the organs. So we can affect the vagus nerve using our own modulation. So we don't necessarily need all these fancy gadgets. We can just, there's certain points on the face, we'll sort of massage, stimulate. We'll do some eye movements, and they are incredible for releasing your neck, because, you know, part of the polyvagal theory is that we have this sense of safety. We need to be safe before anything else can happen. And a lot of that is the head being right on top of the spine, because our 300,000-year-old nervous systems need to be able to be upright and survey the horizon. So we're doing a lot of stuff on stimulating our ventral vagus, which will be our social engagement system, so we'll be using the eyes, the ears, the neck, excuse me, the throat. And they're really lovely, simple things. I mean, breathing like you do yourself. Breathing is a vagal toning exercise. So we'll learn some really fun things to take away and practice at home, because we want to improve our vagal tone, because that means we'll be more resilient to stress. So when life throws us at all of those, you know, lemons, we know what to do. We can stay a bit more regulated, or re-regulate much easier. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat today.
Yes, I think the vagus nerve gets a lot of attention now, because so many people are just excreting cortisol and adrenaline into their bodies, and it's almost like they just can't switch it off. And you've got that wired and tired, and it shows up in our, and myself. I was like, oh my God, how can you be there and there at the same time? But I think that's the reality of how in this shift in consciousness, you know, the world's going mental, and we're very divided in our beliefs and our ideas, and it's like, oh, and, you know, obviously so many people unwell, and even if you look at Scotland, how, you know, obviously we can't have a third of our population in suffering without everyone feeling it. So I think the regulation of the vagus nerve, because I know you'd messaged me wondering about the title, and I believe that our audience are pretty well educated. I'm sure there's people coming that don't understand it, but I think it's really important. You know, my friend Gary from the Mindful Enterprise, he does a lot of that work over on the East Coast. he's been up in Skye. So yeah, our followers are actually, it's really nice to see they're very, very well educated, because obviously I bang on about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm howling at the moon sometimes, but no, I really, I think people are really starting to pay attention now to this kind of thing. And because obviously the fight or flight, the cortisol issues, especially since 2020 with, well, whatever the reasons being, it doesn't really matter now as far as I'm concerned. The reality is a lot of people are incredibly stressed, incredibly tired and achy, and they know that they need to switch off from fight or flight into rest, restore and repair. And it's how do we do that? And it's this, I know it's the stuff that you teach. So I'm excited and delighted to have you at the festival, because and if you can come to, we've got an academy here that we're just kind of lining up just now to bring people like you and to teach people how to do it, because it's not always to say that they'll do it. And again, I include myself in that, because I'm like, you never did the big six this morning, and I know all that, the eye stuff and done all these courses, and then, but unless it follows through to action, of course, you're not going to get the results. But I think, again, if we just keep planting the seeds, and the critical mass is actually about 150,000 people. So whether you kind of take it from the polyvagal theory, or whether we look at EFT, or whether we look at breath work, whether we look at cold water, whether we look at whatever it is that you're doing, knitting, sitting having a glass of wine with your pals, whatever's taking you, distracting you away from the noise, is helping you to calm down. And that's really what we need to do. And if we can get enough people into that place, well, it's going to help lift the others. So
yeah, I think that's why the polyvagal theory is really important to understand, because we don't just have parasympathetic and sympathetic systems. We've got the ventral vagal system, which is where we can engage with other people, and we feel safe enough to engage. But also there's hybrid states as well, where you've got the sympathetic system is split into two. So you've got the fight flight, but you've also got the mobilize. So the sympathetic is not just the bad, and the parasympathetic is not just the good.
yes,
The parasympathetic has the shutdown, the dorsal shutdown, where you have all the inflammation, the migraines, you just feel awful, you just don't want to get out of bed, the depression, you've got that. But then the other part of that is where it's safe to be calm and rest. And then the sympathetic, you've got your fight flight, but we also need to mobilize. We also need to get up off our bums and get out there and climb a hill, go dancing, go to a class, all those sorts of things. So it's quite nuanced in that we need to understand that how to get through and navigate through the different systems to get to that ventral vagal, where we can get out and have fun, live our lives.
Well, I'm really glad that you put it like that, because I think that's the thing, that it's a bit like you can be positive but still be sad, and you can be negative, and it's not quite as simple as black and white. And we definitely need, I think, to mobilise. I was just talking to Linda at the desk about this. I said, we had moved the ceilidh at the festival in Stonehaven, because what we're finding was people were going home for dinner and then not coming back for the ceilidh, which I totally understand, right? But because I'm running the festivals, I need to go to the ceilidh whether I like it or not. And what I noticed in Tarbert was, as soon as I started dancing, I felt brilliant. And then what happened? So we thought, we'll bring the ceilidh forward to 5:30. Well, at 5 o'clock, there was a mass exodus when the band were setting up. And I was like, oh, no. And the same thing, had it not been my festival, I could probably just have gone home myself. But then we started dancing. And then we ended up having an absolutely brilliant time. And I think, as somebody who always I was an aerobics instructor, so I was always doing a lot of high impact. I love to dance. And I danced every single weekend as well. And so, but since the menopause, I just stopped doing cardio. I couldn't be bothered. And now I'm like that. God, see if you just make that wee bit of effort, then you come back to life in a really positive way. So that kind of explains, what you're just saying there, the kind of mobilising. and how easy it is to listen and think, oh, well, and also, and just why would you push yourself through it? Whereas when you're younger, you're kind of like, you're going to meet your friends, and there's a wee, even if you're tired, you probably do it anyway. Whereas when you're older, it's easy
Yeah.
to go, too tired, you know, and then in actual fact, if you mobilize yourself, you end up feeling way better.
Yeah. I heard someone the other day say, what's the best part of a party is actually saying you're not going to go.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that as well now. I would never
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
before.
But, you know, and it goes back to that thing of the nervous system. Its main job is to keep us safe. So if you don't feel safe, you are not getting up to go dancing. So it's like learning ways of how can I improve that felt sense of safety in your body, so that then that filters up through all of the nervous system and enables you to then go, right, I am going to go because I know I'm going to feel better if I do.
Yeah, and it's the same. I think after lockdowns and all the nonsense that went on, we all became a little bit unsocial. And, you know, they say 2 years of action makes a habit, and it kind of went on for that amount of time. And then, so really, you know, sometimes you've just got to kind of push yourself through it, even like to go out, go for a coffee or something, have some actual social interaction. And you're like, oh, right, I feel better. Of course you did. Of course you do.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
it's so that fine line, isn't it? And then I think we're all looking at how can we balance that, you know, act in terms of the work, life, play, all of that.
Hmm.
Anyway, listen, I look forward to seeing you at the weekend,
Great.
next weekend. And
Yes.
thank you so much for bringing your skill set and your wisdom to the festival. And obviously, we tend to get people that aren't local coming to the festivals. I don't know why that is. Locals don't come. It doesn't matter where we go. There may be a few locals come, but in general, you know, but it means doing things like these lives really helps the local people to understand what it is that you do,
Hmm.
and you know, how can you help them? And I think, you know, I'm so happy about Westlock Wellness because I think it's kind of gives you a place where you can meet the people that are already proactive, and you know, for the people that because everybody knows somebody right now that's not well, so it's that word of mouth that works really well in local places, you know, that they, I know my friend will is telling everybody how wonderful you are,
Oh,
um,
I'm
and
dying
so
to know who the person is.
I'll tell you in secret.
Okay.
So it's, I think, you know, one of our missions is to help the people who help the people. And I know, and it's we all know, being a sole trader, trying to continuously market your wares and your skills and your workshop and your retreat is exhausting, and it's the part of the job that actually makes people give up. So we really want to be part of the movement that helps educate people, because even if you are, for example, long COVID or fibromyalgia, which are two of the kind of big ones right now, it's, well, where do you go? Who can help you? And if you're foggy minded and you're like, you know, because let's face it, when we go out, there's money attached to that, and it's not going to happen in one session usually. So it's really nice people can start to get to know you and start to understand what you can do. Who do you help primarily before we finish up? Who would you say is your
Oh, well, I have sort of different avenues. So I still do online classes with, because I lived in Leeds for a long time. So I still do all my clients there. We do online. I'll go down and do retreats. I mainly one-to-one. I've got all my equipment there, all my Pilates equipment. So I do quite a lot of rehab, people that are broken in some way, and they come to me on a one-to-one level. And then I just go out and do my classes in the community. But my when people say, "What are you?" I don't always like to say I'm a Pilates teacher, because I feel like I'm more than that. I'm like a holistic movement teacher with nervous system, you know. So it's difficult to know how to market myself. So really, I tend not to. I don't advertise. I just let people come from word of mouth, because
well?
I've
That's
always done that, and I've always been really busy.
So what's the best ways for people to, if you get a website? Because I just put your
I
Facebook.
Yeah, it's under construction. Excuse me. So it was still my old website from when I had a big studio. So none of the information is particularly relevant to up here. So probably, yeah, my Facebook page, Kath N Pilates. You can also contact me on email, which is just kath@westcoastpilates.co.uk. So it's co.uk because West Coast Pilates is California.
Oh,
So
is it?
it's co.uk, yeah.
I've been tagging you, so that's not you I'm tagging.
Probably not, no.
I thought your
So,
Kath N Pilates. I thought you
yeah,
told me it was Westlock Pilates, but I must have dreamt that.
well, it's westcoastpilates.co.uk. Yeah.
You let me
Yeah,
just.
but you know, I am the worst social media person. As I say, I like to do what I do, so all my effort goes into working with people and supporting them on their healing journey. I'm not very good at advertising or social media, so
Well,
best
if you,
thing, keep it
why
on.
would you? I mean, that's the thing. If you've got a good, strong word of mouth, which I think you clearly have, but it's all it's also just nice to know that you're not having to market. And again, there's so many people coming into this world. There's so many options now. It's kind of keeping yourself relevant, because there might be people watching this right now that you could really help, but they didn't know that you even lived in the area.
Yeah.
So it's kind of helpful. But anyway, I'll do that for you. Don't worry. And people can come and meet you. And I just want to say to anybody local that's watching this, you can come to the festival and just to anything, any workshop that you want, and just put a donation. You don't need to buy a weekend ticket. If you're local, that's totally cool to do that. If you want, we've got another phenomenal lineup. And on Saturday night, we've got line dancing, and then we've got a DJ and a wee bit of Kaylee. And so it's a very, very fun weekend. So listen, Kath, I'll see you next weekend, and thank you so much for your time. I'll let you go and get on with your decorating.
Thank you. Great. All right. Nice to chat to you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
cheers. Bye now.
Cheers.